So what are they going to teach you? Well, no, you're 9.
Yeah,
so you're going to have to put on the mask. And the rest of the 8-year-olds in the class, they don't have to wear the mask. So,
mandated mask wearing outdoors is not prevalent across the developed world. You know?
So, yeah, next election, then don't vote for PLM, vote for WHO.
Yeah. Don't have a minister of national minister of health.
Yeah.
Just WHO, what to use? What medicine I could use? You know, the two of them, but more so Zelensky, has become kind of like a pop culture icon. They have become fans of this guy. All of us, they know nothing about his leadership. They don't know anything about the corruption that was taking place in Ukraine. They don't care. They don't care about the fact that he's been accused of having jailed his opponents and who speak out against his regime across it. They don't care anything about that. They just see, pictures of him wearing fatigues and him, pretending to be a strong man and a hero, and all of a sudden, that's the kind of leader we need. You don't know nothing about him, man. Now, who do you think actually types "pray for Ukraine," puts their phone down,
and actually prays for
Ukraine, or prayed for Ukraine before they type that? Not a soul.
What do? Do I continue supporting Ukraine and look like a supporting racism, or condemn Ukraine for being racist and then look like a supporting Russia? Like so. Welcome back. It's the Alternative Perspectives Podcast, the app 868. Look for us on all the podcasting platforms. Also check us out on YouTube for the people who want to see our lovely faces.
Yep.
And remember, coming up, we have the giveaway, the AirPods giveaway. So for the people who, are accustomed to the YouTube, but want to go over to our podcasting platform and you want to listen in style, you want to get tired up and hang yourself with no cord. The 500 subscribers on YouTube giveaway. When we reach that point, we'll let you all know how we doing it.
I'm not going to say we doing it the official way or we doing it the bubble way.
Is the bubble way?
Well, where you pick randomly now, you don't have an app that does the...
No. You'll probably use an app. You use an app to choose the person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't rig it so that a person I know...
No. And more than likely, I'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Okay.
Right? And use... what we use you could use Siri or you could use Alexa, and you say, okay, so everybody who enter, we give them a number and they will know their number, and then you just tell Alexa or Siri, choose a random number between 1 and whatever, and that's it. It's simple. So, it's on a rocket, it will be recorded, you get to see it, yeah.
If I'm going to some bubble now.
Yeah, some bubble, right?
Yeah. I just prefer bubble.
I understand you're Trinidadian. I mean, I like your political aspirations. Hey, you want to be a politician? That's what we're going to do.
Let me go.
Right? So yeah, let me jump into today's episode. And this week's episode, last week we had a hectic week. We went to record an episode.
Well, actually, I was just about to say we should apologize for not touching base with the subscribers and listeners last week. You're only gonna explain it.
So we were guests on someone else's podcast, which happened to be on our same recording day, and then we have busy schedules otherwise. So
but look out for the drama podcast. That's where when it's out, we'll let you know, so you could
check it out. Right,
and see us being
interviewed. Yeah, and you will definitely get a different perspective about us and learn a little more.
That's strange, to find out more about us that listen to another podcast.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because that's the thing, I mean, wouldn't it be kind of narcissistic if we come and sit down and talk about ourselves? Like, you understand? We on our podcast just talking about ourselves.
Well, I mean, there are some podcasts where people do that,
Right.
Basically. Well, I mean, to be fair to them, most of the time it's self-improvement content. So, they kind of have to tell a lot about themselves, their history and their daily lives. So, don't make it sound like it's impossible.
All right. I mean, I didn't improve much. I still the same asshole, for a while now. So, so we jumping into it. Of course, we want to say condolences to the families who lost their loved ones in this diving accident, this underwater work accident.
For the people who might be listening from outside of Trinidad and Tobago and maybe unaware of what took place, there was an incident last week Friday. Not this Friday, going here, the Friday before that, where 5 divers who were underwater welders as well, technicians of some sort, went to do some work on an underwater pipe for they were contracted by a state-owned oil company in Trinidad.
Right.
And
what?
Dub plate and thing.
Yeah.
You get copyright ban and strike and thing.
Yeah. Nah, I might upplate. I pay for that. Yeah.
So yeah, they were while they were doing the work below there, some incident occurred. That's still the language being used to describe what happened. An incident occurred that caused them to get sucked into the same pipe that they were working on, and unfortunately, only one of the 5 divers was rescued alive. As far as we are aware, he's recovering.
Right. Well, he was in one of them. One of the funerals. So one of them.
Oh, okay.
So,
he's able to operate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing is, probably recovering physically, but definitely not emotionally.
Yeah, mentally and emotionally.
And so the thing is, so they had to call in some other people who came to help in that rescue mission.
Right,
so it's not to say, one happened to get away. It was a man.
Yeah. He was rescued. He was not. Yeah, he didn't escape on his own.
Yeah. So somebody dove and
well, I read a report today, actually, from something that Paria put out,
right,
where it is suggested that he worked his way to the top of the pipe. And
then,
he was seen by the diver, and the diver pulled him out.
Right.
But he was in some way rescued, but apparently he did do something to get himself in the position in order to be seen by the rescue diver who pulled him out of the pipeline. I mean, there's so many things in this thing that, just strange, and it's because, well, I know nothing about underwater welding and the pipelines that they use for these fuel companies and so on. So, but these things just sound strange to me. Like when they keep saying it's a 30-inch diameter pipe, I keep wondering, how on earth can a grown person
fit in
sucked into and how you could get sucked into the pipe, like, I could understand how a suction so powerful could pull you in, but you wouldn't be a whole person anymore. You'd be torn to pieces now. You could be, I mean, my waist is bigger than 30 inches.
Right, and then to have one scuba gear and have a tank on your back. So we are not saying that this didn't happen, because there were people listening and
but it's hard to imagine the logistics of it. And when they keep talking about them finding an air pocket in the pipe, I'm like, how could they move? If I get sucked into a 30-inch pipe, I'm stuck. That's it.
Yeah.
Where am I? If for however long I'm alive, I'm just there. But they kept saying, it might be possible that they found a air pocket in the pipe and would have been allowed to survive, for a little bit longer than anticipated. But I just couldn't. There's so much about that I just can't envision, because I know nothing about the settings.
Right.
I mean? So
I wonder when they say 30 inches, if it's 30 inches in diameter, not in diameter, in circumference. Still.
Well, 30 inches diameter.
I don't know. Normally that's how you measure things.
Yeah, but they specify 30-inch diameter pipe. I even saw that in the report today that Paria put out. It was a 30-inch circumference would be even worse.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So, it is still hard to imagine and how they would have rescued them without cutting the pipe open.
Right. Which, I mean, as I say, a lot of things are unclear to me in that situation.
Yeah.
Because at one point I heard they were saying they were hearing some knocking on the pipe, right?
Yeah. Well, that's how they rescued the first guy.
One.
Yeah.
Right? So, my thing is, okay, if you're hearing knocking, is it that I was the only one that was able to knock? And because if the rest of them knocking and they could hear it somewhere, then they could probably cut somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or my thing is, if you understand it had some degree of suction, I believe if you cut the pipe at some other point, the
it might release the pressure.
Release the pressure at some other point.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much technical stuff in there that you can't even opine on sensibly, because you just have no idea what you're talking about, like what the setting is like down there. So it's so hard for us who know nothing about anything about what happening there to really get an idea, wrap your head around what really happened on that day. And then there's all we should mention for those who may not know about the story because they're not from Trinidad, there's a whole lot of controversy surrounding whether the state-owned oil company did what was necessary in order to ensure that the divers were rescued and so on.
And the thing is, I realize a lot of people wanted things to be done a different way. And what I would say is, I'm hearing this child speaking very loudly, so I'm going to send her a message.
Yes.
Right?
Hold on. We babysitting in the studio.
Yeah, 1 second. Really? I'm hearing you in my podcast. I'm hearing you in my podcast, right? And you're not a guest. So, thank you. Yeah.
Fun times. Yeah.
So, a lot of people, they were thinking, why they just didn't do this or why they just didn't do that. The thing is, if you ever worked in any situation that requires a significant amount of health and safety and has, these real dread OSHA rules and regulations, sometimes they think you should just do. Time OSHA things is real block you from just doing it now, boy. And I'm not saying that is the situation there, but I remember a time when I was working with TCL, right?
That's Trinidad Cement Limited.
Yeah, Trinidad Cement Limited, right? I worked TCL when they had a shutdown in the cement factory.
So you were one of these scabs. You were one of them that allowed the company to survive.
Yes.
while the workers were striking.
Yes, I was one of them.
Undermining the labor movement. That was your role.
Well,
and you feel good about that.
Yes.
Out here promoting that.
Yes.
That you was not a union scab because he wasn't in the union. But
and also I wasn't employed at TCL.
I just
yeah, but like so so and I hear listen, the money I was getting paid there, in 4 days I was making more money than the place I was working for before,
Wow.
In 4 days,
Right.
This was more than my monthly salary,
Wow.
So make my scab now.
All right.
You understand? Anyhow. And so they were taking the cement off the ships and we would bring them here, whatever. And at some point, the crane dropped the pallet of cement down and a forklift was now picking it up. And a guy was trying to fix the strap quick before the forklift lift up the cement. And his finger gets a clip and get cut now.
Right.
Not a major break finger on it, just a slip and a little cut. And here, the whole operation had to shut down for that night.
Right.
The whole operation. And I was like, what? A simple thing like, the man hand just get a little cut.
Yeah.
You understand? No, the thing is, I would assume that probably TCL standard, real dread. So from there, one time, everybody lock off, we taking him to the hospital.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right now, this had a lock off until the investigation happens.
Yeah. All the attention has to be paid to that incident.
Right.
And nothing else.
Right. And that's what happened. If you understand what I'm saying. And I talking about this time we probably work about 2 hours alone, 3 hours alone for the day.
Right, yeah.
And so that's how serious people take these rules and OSHA rules and regulations. So I think as much as we might have wanted things to be done a certain way, and I am not saying that I'm for the OSHA rules and regulations or against it, because obviously it's there for a reason. Yeah. And I don't know how I would have operated in a situation like that. Like, I mean...
Well, I mean, lawyers for... I'm not sure who Prakash Ramada representing. If it's the company... if it's the company or if it's the family of the divers, I can't remember.
You feel you could be representing a government, the government?
No, the
all right,
the contracted, the company that was contracted, who the divers were working for. I'm not sure because they put out a statement as well. I think it was yesterday,
right? Yeah,
essentially blaming Paria, saying, "Well, listen,
they prevented them.
They prevented them from allowing people to go into the." And they're also asking the question, what caused the issue with the suction, right? But I heard him saying making a statement, or I read a statement where he was implying that Paria were more concerned with liability than with saving the lives, and that's what led to the situation where we are uncertain whether they may have survived if greater efforts were made to rescue them in a shorter period of time. So he is clear. He's making it clear that somebody in Paria was as I say more concerned with liability than saving lives.
And the thing is, I could understand Paria's situation because the thing is, you let people go down there again, and you don't know what happens because I'm at this point more than likely, right? Nobody knows what caused the issue at the point in time. Probably after you do investigations, or maybe you understand whatever it might have been, whether water started coming on next end of the pipe that caused the suction, or somebody opened a valve or something else, right? But at that point, you don't know. So should me now being somewhat in charge or responsible at that point, should I let 2 or 3 men go down there and...
Well, I mean, and I keep trying to remember the name of the company or the acronym.
It is
LC
something,
something like that, right? The company, they're saying that they had people on site who gave Paria a plan, who said they outlined exactly what they would do and how they could go about trying to rescue the individuals, and they were told no. Now, Paria today said they didn't do any such thing. They said they were not in charge of the rescue operation. They said when the volunteer diver, who wasn't actually working for the company, who went who rescued the one survivor, they said Paria's role in that operation was to provide like the security. So they were observing the waters around where the diver went and so on, but they weren't in charge of the operation to conducting the rescue. So they're saying that they are challenging the statement put out by the company, and that they had no role to play in whether people were allowed to go in or not.
I think it also must be said that the rescuer, the guy who went and dived, his father was in the pipe as well, right? Because I think that's what he was saying. He was saying that when the guy come out, the guy was saying, your father right behind me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the press conference thing he did, right?
Right.
He was saying that, the guy who came out, he said, well, your father right behind me.
Right, okay.
So he went back in to see if he could have found him, and he couldn't.
Right.
And based, I guess, on...
I wasn't aware that his father was one of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what he was saying, based on the amount of air he had, when he went back in, and you realize how far he is, and the time you realize, now I have to go back up now, boy.
Right.
Because...
Yeah.
Right?
So he wouldn't have had time to... enough oxygen to return if he took too long underwater.
The other thing is that one of the divers was on the top of the riser, which was Christopher, banging on the pipe. Nobody after an hour, he banging an hour inside. Nobody to rescue him. Only when me and my divers came, we rescued him. When we rescued him, he told me my father is right behind him. Go down for your father. It took me about 15 minutes to organize my gear to go down on the pipe. I swim down in the pipe about 70 feet down. I did not locate him. I located his dive down.
We should mention for the people who don't know, that the diver who was rescued was rescued 4 hours later at about 6 p.m. Apparently, the incident took place at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the diver that was recovered 4 hours later. So it wasn't like the person just of 15 minutes or 25 minutes underwater.
Because I think it was after an hour or something. So when they ran into difficulties, they then contacted him, and then he organized and then came.
Yeah.
And
this incident happened at around 2 o'clock. I was called an hour after. My brother called me. He said, everybody's shaking on the barge and nobody know what to do. I gathered 2 of my divers and we came to the rescue.
Right, so
it was about the diver that survived did spend quite some time underwater,
right,
stuck in that pipe.
One of the next big topics or issues, one of the big issues I should say coming out of that was people were saying how the families of the divers who were stuck in the pipe, how they were treated or mistreated.
Well, it was a communications nightmare as far as I'm concerned. That the press conference wasn't handled well.
But the thing is, I've seen a lot of people when Paria put out their press release. A lot of people, I honestly didn't read it.
You mean the one today?
Yesterday or yeah, I think yesterday.
The one where they're challenging.
No, I think it was yesterday. They put one yesterday too. They put one recently, and people, I think it was like 2 pages, and people were like real bashing them for the English apparently.
Well, the one I read today didn't have any typos,
any errors,
or grammatical errors. So
yeah, so I don't know.
I don't know which one they're referring to.
But
It's clear to me that nobody in Paria had any degree of public relations expertise. Maybe they have somebody who was hired for that, but they're not really good at the job. Because the way, none of us could, it's only speculation when it comes to the technical issues.
Right.
And who's to blame and all of that. But one thing I could think anybody could say with a certain degree of confidence is that the whole situation was not handled well from a communication standpoint by the company. It was the press conference where they gave information initially about what was taking place. All of the individuals at that desk seemed very unconcerned, and I think everybody who saw it kind of
came
got
across.
that impression.
I think it. We call that boy matter of factish.
And I mean, I'm not accusing anybody. I don't know them personally, and I know some people, especially when you work in more technical fields, you tend to have a matter of factish kind of attitude.
Right, true. I understand.
But to be fair, it's not like they're in the military, so it's not like they're accustomed to people dying on the walk. So you would think they would be a little bit more, And then, well, they claim today, and what I read today, they were refuting that they did not inform the families prior to making the announcement that they're turning it from a rescue mission to a recovery mission. That was another bone of contention that the families were saying, listen, nobody told us that they were declared deceased. We had to find out about it when Paria had a press conference and essentially told the nation that, hey, we've given up hope on finding these divers and we are now going to flush the pipes and recover the bodies. The families claim that they were not told that Paria was going to take that course of action. Paria is refuting that. They're saying that they made efforts, or they contacted the families and informed them that is what was going to take place.
But in there, they tell them to join our WhatsApp group. The
well,
family members.
They did join. I think they were part of our WhatsApp group.
So they told them to join our WhatsApp group, and then they tell them to send their emails, right? So they could email them the necessaries. So, I mean, we see how it all unfolds, and then Ian Allen came and jumped out and said that the men were alive in the pipe up until Monday, which was basically 3 days.
Yeah, because after, right,
Right, he said, because he said that, and I'm saying he said, because I didn't see the autopsy, the autopsy report, but he said that in the autopsy report, it said they died on Monday.
Right.
So that obviously caused another stir in the country, because they were like, oh, they leave them in there so long, and if all that try, they could still be alive.
Well, I think from what, I don't know if that development with respect to the time of death came after the article I read, but the article I read, it sounded like there was still some contention around that. In other words, that is something, that's a crucial piece of evidence in the whole investigation now. A determination with respect to when they actually died. So it sounded like it was still up in the air when I read it. But if you say Ian Allen,
but I see Ian Allen. I mean, that is highly dependent on how much you trust Ian Allen and what he says, right? I mean,
I heard, as I read as well, one of the wives, the wife of one of the divers is requesting a second autopsy.
Right.
So I'm not sure what the purpose of that.
But by now that would be kind of late, because like two of them buried already.
Right, but I think this is of the last one.
Okay.
The one that was recovered last. Again, we should mention again. The bodies were recovered on the Thursday. The following Thursday.
No, it might have been the Wednesday, I believe.
Right. Well, it was at least 5 days after that 3 of the 4 bodies was recovered, and the 4th body wasn't recovered until the weekend after.
Right.
So these bodies were, it took a while for these people to be discovered, and one of them, the final, I think the body of the wife of the diver that was recovered last is the one who's requesting the second autopsy.
Right. Also, I want to say deep condolences to Yusuf Henry family.
Yes.
He was one of the divers who lost his life there as well. And, as the story unfolded, one, I heard it on Corey Shepard's podcast. Somebody he knew, his good friend, actually, he knew the father of the diver. And then he is also saying that that same guy, he lost two of his sons quite
Yes.
recently.
Yes, yes.
Right, one to I think COVID and one to
a tumor.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard. From,
Right? Yeah, I think it was something like that. And so basically, a mother and father, they are now burying 3 of their children, or would have
They
buried
have buried 3 of their children in the past
within
3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 of the adult children.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to lose, like if, you lose your family in one incident, like a car accident or a plane crash or something like that. But to lose them one by one like that, that's crazy. And and I mean, it's like for children to lose like maybe parents consecutively. I mean, it's tough, but you kind of expect your parents to die before you. But, to have...
To bury your children, 3 of them.
Yeah.
I think that could tear apart anybody. And
mentally, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they'll ever hear this, but most likely it's a whole strong way because I could see people losing a will for living after a situation like that.
Losing the ability to keep it together mentally.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think you could talk to me for like 2-3 months. I mightn't be making sense for 3 months straight. When you ask me a question, and you might as well talk to a wall. But anyway, we just, had to kind of touch on that despite how much of it is speculation and all that. It's just, because in Trinidad and Tobago, it's dominating the news.
Right.
In a way that you could say probably COVID was a few months ago, this has, taken over the public's, collective attention.
I want to reach it, but we're going to reach it just now.
Right.
Because it's had a nice little spin in terms of talking about what dominating the news.
Right.
As we talking about, what dominating the news, we talking about pipelines. I want to carry down the road of the Russia-Ukraine situation.
Oh, we're going there one time. All right.
Yeah.
I thought you'd leave the international story for last.
No. Because you see, I mean, I think a lot of people...
So we're traveling and coming back. Jumping on the plane. Flying to Eastern Europe.
And then we will come back.
We'll come back.
Yeah.
Nice,
I think,
nice.
like we touched on this because a lot of people here in Trinidad and Tobago, of course, they would have been on social media, sending the support for Ukraine. And then I realized it started to slow down a little bit. And I mean, it's hard for me to be me on this topic coming out of what we just discussed, right? But I think the Ukraine and Russia war, I think it might have been one of the greatest things to happen in most recent times, in terms of showing up people and their hypocrisies and yeah.
And I think COVID though. I think COVID did that, but
nah, I think because here what happened, right? We remember everybody was on the Black Lives Matter and the Black lives, the black and against racism and whatever, right? And then the Russia and Ukraine thing hit. And everybody, we praying for Ukraine, we love Ukraine. And then you start to hear situations of where they're saying Ukrainians are being racist towards black people. Of course, we will discuss that further, right? But at that point, boy, you put people in a position, a lot of people didn't know what to do, if you understand what I'm saying. Because how are we going to virtue signal now? Right? Normally, I just virtue signal against racism. But then if I virtue signal, if I come and I say, no, I condemn Ukraine, then they look like I supporting Russia. And I think real people get caught in that web. It's like, wait, boy, what to do now, boy? Like, what do? Do I continue supporting Ukraine and look like I supporting racism? Or condemn Ukraine for being racist and then look like I supporting Russia? Like, so... People, I tell you, I just watch how people was Ukraine, and then they just die off now. I was like, wow, interesting.
No, but when you mean it shows the hypocrisy though?
Because it shows that you're just running on to supporting what is popular. At the end of the day, if you're against the war, you're against the war. You understand what I'm saying? And you could be against the war and it could be against racism. You understand what I'm saying?
But what I'm saying is, I thought what you were going to tell me was that you saw people flip the script from the perspective of like because this I saw actually but I didn't see it in a widespread way, but I noticed it in one person, and this is what I thought you was leading to, which is the people who normally are always against racism. Racism is apparently the most important thing to them. I saw one person kind of suggesting that what them black people doing in the first place.
Serious.
Yeah. So it went from, I am anti-racism and I will always hold the position of fireburn racism to kind of like, because I don't know if this was determined by the support for Ukraine or if, sometimes you just catch people saying what they really think and they're not pretending to, they're not virtue signaling, they're not paying attention to the fact that they want to signal their virtue to the world and they just say what they feel. But I remember, it was in a group and somebody dropped one of those videos with, an African person talking about the problems they were experiencing trying to leave Ukraine. And the person's response was, what am doing there in the first place? I was like, what? What are they doing there? Yeah. So they don't have legitimate but again, because they don't actually have principles and it's simply, I have to be on a team or how I feel about something is determined by what the cool kids say, not a principle. If you have principles, then okay, my principle is I am not in favor of aggression. So let's say Russia is the aggressor in this situation. So as a person always against aggression, I can't support Russia in this thing. I'm not saying I'm waving a flag for Ukraine. I'm just saying, nah, I don't like that. But, and if you're also a principled person who is, anti-racism, then, okay, when you get word that that's what Ukraine is doing, then you say, well, like you just said, I am not in favor of Russia's aggression against Ukraine, but I ain't waving a flag for Ukraine because them fellas, they're not free of guilt too, because, but that's if you're a principled person. But if you're a person that just wants to jump on a bandwagon, then you find it hard.
But the thing is, what was funny for me is people just stop, Right?
Like no,
they just drop everything. Like they just, well, boy, I ain't really care about UK no more. I ain't care about racism. I don't care about nothing. But, well, hard luck, boy.
It's because they don't care about anything, to be honest. Nothing. I mean, I think sometimes, I think racism bothers everybody. I think some people like to pretend they're a little bit more bothered by it than they actually are. But I think racism does bother most people. But in reality, nobody cares. Who do you think actually types pray for Ukraine, puts their phone down, and actually prays for Ukraine? Or prayed for Ukraine before they type that? Not a soul. Well, I mean, not a soul, but very few people. But they're just putting that up there because, and then they see, well, whatever Trevor Noah is in favor of, well, then that's the cool kids thing. So I must be on the side of the, you understand? So, but they have such a burning desire to be, in a tribe and to take, to be on a team and support. I don't know what about, I don't understand that desire in people at all. I don't know why they can't just see something and be like, well.
But you see, is this something you have been saying a while now with this situation, As I say, the news is always brought in a way where it must have a villain.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Right? A good guy and a villain.
Yeah.
And I think that's what confused people because it got so accustomed to having a villain and a good person.
Yeah.
So now you end up in a situation where, okay, the villain was Putin, and now
the hero was Zelensky because
Zelensky and Ukraine.
No, but I don't know if you noticed he has become like him and I could never remember which one of the Klitschko brothers is the mayor of Kiev, but whichever one of the Klitschko brothers, I think it's not Vladimir, it's the next one. The two of them, but more so Zelensky, has become kind of like a pop. Not pop culture, a pop star, but a pop culture icon. They have become fans of this guy. All of us, they know nothing about his leadership. They don't know anything about the corruption that was taking place in Ukraine. They don't care. They don't care about the fact that he's been accused of having jailed his opponents. And people who speak out against his regime across they don't care anything about that. They just see pictures of him wearing fatigues and him pretending to be a strong man and a hero, and all of a sudden that's the kind of leader we need. You don't know nothing about the man. No, this is not, I am not an expert on Ukrainian politics, so I have no opinion on him as a leader. But what I'm saying is people who know nothing about his quality of leadership, all they need to see is some pictures of him in army fatigues and some videos with him saying, I am staying to fight. He could be doing that and running in a bunker.
Yeah.
He could be the most protected man, and probably is the most protected man in all of Ukraine. He probably didn't squeeze a trigger since this thing started.
Yeah.
But these clowns just see a picture. Oh, yes, and that is the kind of leader we need. But we just love stories. We love. But coming back to the point you're making, I think the news adapted to how we behave, not the other way around. I think, and it's because of social media. Remember, because the news has to fashion itself to become viral, right? The news can't compete anymore, and to some extent, you can't blame them because nobody sits and watches the news on the television for any length of time. You know, that's not the way that news is consumed. So, in order for news to be consumed in a wide-ranging way, they need to craft the news stories in a way that could
make clips.
Exactly, and it is easily consumed on social media. And what happens on social media? Do people want unbiased, facts with as much context as possible, and you make up your own mind? No. That's not what goes viral on social media. That's not what's shared. So the news just say, hey, this is what people want. So let's
of course, I mean, it kind of shut up that we didn't get to discuss any of this last week, where you saw how many fake videos and pictures were used during this situation, where they actually use footage from a game, a video game,
with the rockets, with
the planes,
right?
Where they used old footage, pictures.
The picture of Zelensky in the fatigues was also I mean, he it's not like he isn't in Kiev now, but the picture that they showed that went viral firstly with supposedly depicting him ready to fight, that was a picture taken last year. You understand? So even that, the thing that kicked it all off with him being a
superhero.
Superhero. That was, not fake, but it was not actually applicable to this situation.
And then, of course, we saw people, which, when I saw the pictures and people were sending it to me, I started to tell people, and then I was like, no, because people see it here when they talk, so the waters talk. But when I saw some of the pictures with the Miss Ukraine from whenever. All right? I said yo, this is a professional cameraman. This is a professional photographer. Watch your background blue. Watch your pose. Clearly, she is not looking to go and fight a war here. This is not her putting on. And if she took these pictures recently, she took these pictures for it to go on social media and go viral.
Yes.
It was not taken because she was going to fight a war. Right?
I don't think if she's concerned about rockets dropping and bombs dropping, and countrymen getting killed, she would stop for a photo shoot
and have makeup on, and you understand what I'm saying, and pose proper. So when they check, they realize the rifle was some airsoft rifle, right?
Exactly.
Then it had a next one, a millionaire, where he's sitting on top of a thing, and I was like, yo, this man is legitimately posing for a picture. We not seen them in a huddle talking and getting ready to go to war, and somebody snap a picture and oh my god, this is the person. No, we are seeing people posing for pictures and believing that this is what's going on in real life.
Just how that. Listen, sometimes, and and I don't want to sound too dramatic, but I'm not joking with you, Naldo. Sometimes I really hate human beings, I really, really hate human beings. Those memes about, where they have a caption saying it's time to leave Earth, and they just show you it's like stupid things human beings doing. I sometimes feel like, I feel like it's really time to leave here, It's really time to leave here because, in 2022, you would think that by now, having seen all the fake news, the fake videos, the doctor this, the doctor that, you would think that that people would be at least a little bit cynical. But no, dog. Once it could support whatever bias they have in their mind, whatever story they want to tell themselves, they don't give a shit. They just run in with it. Once it supports whatever they want to believe, they don't give a shit. It could be, people with doctorate, people who can't read. It doesn't make... If is one thing that kind of equalizes the entire situation, levels the playing field when it comes to intellect, it is narratives. Once people want to believe something, bro, don't matter how educated they are, they're going down that road, and you can take them down that road very easily.
I agree, and it seems to be the more educated people get taken on it.
I just, oh god, and it's like, You know, just this weekend, I was talking to my family. I was talking to my daughter more so. My family was there, but I was informing my younger daughter. And I should have reminded myself of the girl's name. But I was trying to explain to her how when you're dealing with war, propaganda is something you always have to be on the lookout for. Because when countries are trying to drum up sympathy for them for their plight, they could get very creative. And I don't know if you are aware. Now, you would have been too young to even to remember it when it happened at the time, because I was only like about 7 or 8. And I don't remember it when it happened either. But I came to learn about it afterwards. But during the Gulf War, well, the war itself hadn't started yet. The Operation Desert Storm, the first invasion of Iraq. Well, not the first war against Iraq. The Desert Storm itself was the name of the military operation when they actually got into physical combat. But there was a point in time before, I think it was called Desert Shield or something like that, Operation Desert Shield, where the US, after Iraq had invaded Kuwait, they had begun to send troops to different parts of the Middle East as a defensive mechanism. Because they're like, well, if Iraq play mad and go after Israel and Saudi Arabia, so they sent troops to kind of barricade as a defensive measure. But while that was happening, the idea was they were trying to beat the drums of war, as they say, to actually engage with Saddam Hussein's troops and push the Iraqis out of Kuwait. But at the time, the public was kind of iffy about it. It's like, they can't even point out Kuwait on a map. You're telling me about send US soldiers to go and fight in a war and possibly die against Saddam Hussein? I don't know about that. But while that was happening, there was a young lady, and I can't remember her name. She was called in front of the US Congress and she gave a testimony about the fact that, claiming that Saddam's troops were pulling babies out of incubators. I'm sure that is something that you've heard before, right, and you thought that was true, right? They were, because what was happening is they were raiding all these hospitals and taking medical equipment, right? But she was saying that, the troops were so evil that they would see babies in incubators, but they want the incubator, so they'll pull the baby out of the incubator and drop it on the floor and leave it on the floor to die and to steal the incubators. George Bush, HW, the first George Bush, and many others in US politics at the time, took that statement and parroted it. And because when that statement was given, they hadn't actually engaged in, the war itself yet. And that was used to drum up support. And of course, because Americans saying, what? They're killing babies? Nah, something had to be done to kill this. We had to stop Saddam. No matter what, we send them, boy, and them. Well, it turns out, they never found any evidence that took place. But more than that, the girl was actually the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador to America. She had never been. Not never been, but she wasn't even in Kuwait at the time that those things she was supposedly testifying about were taking place. And what her testimony was organized by a PR firm that was hired by the Kuwaitis to drum up support for the international community to come to their aid. So it was a completely concocted story. But a lot of people don't know that because they just, like you just said, about that, Saddam pulling babies out of incubators. No evidence was ever found that was the case, and she certainly couldn't be trusted. But I was explaining this to my daughter to let her know that, listen, when these things are happening, you have to question every bit of information you hear or see, especially in this day and age where you could doctor videos and doctor photos and social media just awash with nonsense. Don't fall for any of it. Not to not believe everything, but you need to be skeptical about the information you're receiving.
Because here's the thing, right? And I've been trying to have this conversation with people a lot with this whole situation. And what I'm trying to tell them is that, okay, let's just say a war is going on. The same Ukraine and Putin, Ukraine and Russia thing. And let's just say a soldier is to see a woman in the street and hit her some slap. It's not Putin doing that,
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So you can't say Putin beaten up because, and I'm just making the point that it will have some people firing some wild missile. Right. It got some people firing some wild shot because that's how humans are. At the end of the day,
they're not necessarily commanded by Putin or even the general in the army to do that. Like the US soldiers in Abu Ghraib, the prison in Iraq that were accused of doing all kind of craziness.
Right,
sexual
to
assault
people,
and all
to,
kind of-
yeah. So the thing is, and so he ended the narratives, and he and people in the news actually saying, Putin's army is doing this.
Yeah,
And it's like, yo, I don't think the man is like, hey, here we go, now. You see when you're walking down Frederick Street and you see a woman, she too slap for me now, dog. Please. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was trying to tell people, hey, listen, and I'm not saying I'm in support of Vladimir Putin or anything.
Naira was her name.
Naira?
Naira. That's what I was checking while you're talking.
Okay, yeah. I'm not saying that I'm a supporter of Vladimir Putin or whatever the case may be, but what I'm also saying is you have to understand how certain things are drummed up, as Judah was saying. Like even the story, you hear the story with this war where the old woman walk up to the soldier and
the sunflower seeds.
The sunflower
Yeah,
seeds.
yeah.
And she give him the sunflower seeds and tell him put it in his pocket. So when he die, the sunflowers will grow.
Yeah. Adis's body would serve as fertilizer.
Right?
Some good would come. He would have served a purpose.
Yeah. But apparently they said that and all wasn't true.
Yeah, the one with the soldiers who got killed.
Right.
That wasn't even who supposedly got killed when they told the Russians.
A matter of fact, they say they gave them water and think the Russians.
Yeah. When they captured the soldiers eventually, I think stood down and they captured them and they gave them water and refreshments and whatever. Now I don't know that part. I don't know if that's true. But I think what we could say with some degree of confidence is that they weren't killed.
Right.
Which was what the original story was. So you have to understand that everybody has an angle in this. People want you to pick sides. There are some people who it is within their interest for people to be angry so that they would okay craziness. Like what's probably going to happen now that Joe Biden has decided to completely cut off Russian oil imports.
Right, yeah.
So
that's a next set of action there. So before we reach them and the cutting of the oil imports and they trying to talk to Venezuela to work out whatever. Before we go there, I want to talk about the sanctions. Because we see the sanctions rolling out. We see the owner of Chelsea say, well, hey boy, I gotta put up the team for sale. Right? You see they claim a Russian millionaire put out $1 million to say any soldier that could capture Vladimir Putin. He really paid him $1 million. I don't know how. I think he needs to come with more money than that because $1 million it's not one soldier got it right. Real soldiers got it right.
Yeah.
Right? So you kind of trying to get men killed, right? Then it's the U.S. senator who said to kill him. That one was wild, though. Right?
I mean, they've kind of been openly calling for a mutiny amongst his cabinet and his inner circle per se. But going out rightly and asking for his assassination is a bit much.
And
that's the kind of craziness that happens
that's the
at this point.
That's the thing that's could rage real war onto your country. Right? When you start to call for the assassination of a leader of a country. That could
when you are a legislator in another state, in another country, and you start to and that rhetoric gets out there. Because, I mean, you could say now, if Vladimir Putin becomes very paranoid, you say, these people look like they're getting a little bit wild. Because this is not some podcaster or some news person saying this. This is a legislator. So, they could really be trying some sort of operation. You know what I mean? They could be inspired to kick off some kind of operation. Because they could really feel that, there's the head of the snake. So once we chop off the head of the snake, we don't have to worry about them sending no nuclear weapons, no way. Because that is the head of the snake we had to deal with. So he could, get a little bit, spazzy. And who knows what can happen, man. But I think, well, you go ahead. You ask about sanctions.
So that I just talking about the sanctions thing. And before we jump into that aspect of it, here's my thing with the sanctions, boy. My thing with the sanctions is these sanctions are going to affect the Russian people much more than it would affect Putin. People will then say, well, that's how he has had to get, because the people got to pressure him. And then I would say, that's a cacao statement. Let me tell you why. You say he's a dictator. You see, he's a communist leader.
We're not communists.
Well-
Russia's not a communist nation. Anyway.
Well, that's what people say. It's not, but they say that. They say he's a communist.
Well, they shouldn't say that. I mean, I don't think Vladimir Putin has a communist bone in his body.
Right?
He hasn't displayed any interest in taking Russia down that road. What he is a dictator.
Right?
He's a strongman dictator.
So, my thing is, do you think if he's a dictator, you feel the people who starving could get him to change?
Yeah.
I think probably the oligarchs might.
The oligarchs.
Might be the people, but the average man who really suffering.
I mean, to be fair to them, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think you also have to remember that as much as he's a dictator and as much as people accuse him, who knows, probably rightfully, of, wiping out any opposition to him, he still goes to great lengths to be viewed as popular. All right. And from what I understand, a lot of the rhetoric that is being used as propaganda in Russia is to give the public the impression that in Ukraine there's a genocide taking place where the Ukrainians are really, really out there killing Russians, these Russian separatists they're being very inhumane towards the Russians living there, and that's his
Right.
purpose. And I think the main reason for doing so, and when you listen to his speech as well, when he talked about why he doesn't feel Ukraine is a legitimate state, and you get the impression that he is trying to remain popular amongst the people, and even his most ardent enemies in Russia always have to admit that while his popularity might wane, it might dip sometimes, he's generally popular in Russia.
Right.
People love him. People in the majority love him.
Because not to cut it too far, because on the same topic, like a lot of people come and they'll say, yeah, but you see how much people protesting against the war, and it's like, that is not that much people.
Yes.
That is you also see now a few people. You ain't seen 2,000 or 3,000.
Or I mean, and to be fair, for you to even say that is a significant anti-war movement in Russia, you have to be talking about hundreds of thousands of people. Coming out and making across Russia, making their voices.
We have seen probably hundreds or tens of thousands of people come out in Venezuela to protest against Maduro.
Right, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah,
The streets, when you watch the streets, packed with people. You seeing, what's he seeing like it's a protesting tongue, like it's a OWTU.
Strike or demonstration.
Demonstration in tongue. That's what it looking like.
I mean, you saw more people in the Capitol in for January 6th for Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? You saw way more people there for that. So to even suggest that the people in Russia are generally that's just. I mean, I don't live there, so I don't know. But there's a guy that I follow. He has a podcast. He's from Russia originally. Trying to remember his name. Can't remember his name. But anyway, Konstantin Kissin is his name. There's a podcast called Trigonometry that I listen to, and he is Soviet by birth, and he is claiming that because he's in contact with a lot of people in Russia because his family's still there, and he's saying that when you hear the news, when you see what is being reported there, they are drumming up the support for the war by claiming that the people in Ukraine are being subjugated by this evil Nazi leader,
right? Yeah.
Or leaders in Ukraine, and that's why Putin has to defend the Russians over there and demilitarize Ukraine, neutralize them as a threat to Russian interests. That's what they are hearing over there.
No, of course you hear in the bacchanal where they're saying if you report things contrary to what Putin and them want, you could get jailed for 15 years.
Yeah.
So that's a big topic here now. People say, oh, what should they do in the media? They want to control the media.
Like they did with COVID.
And like we have seen right here in Trinidad and Tobago for how long?
To be fair. The difference is you're not jailed.
Right, yeah.
You're not jailed. Yeah. But there is control of the media, and that is not even a conspiracy theory. There is I can't remember what it's called, but there is the I didn't only hear it from him, but the Joe Rogan episode that got him in trouble, well, one of them, he was talking about, he gave the name of it, but there's I think it's the Worldwide Trusted News Pact or something like that, where the media heads came together and said, well, when it comes to COVID, we are going to make every effort to streamline the information. Now, they would claim is because, well, misinformation could lead to people dying or whatever. But the point is, we do the same thing here. When it suits us and we feel, we want to control the information getting out here, and people didn't have a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? So, and Putin could very well say that, listen, you report information that could undermine Russia's efforts.
Right.
That's almost treason.
And he could say, and you could get people killed.
Yeah, exactly.
Just as the virus could have killed certain people if the wrong information got out. So he could say the same thing.
And that's what these clowns could never understand. That there's always a reason that can be given, because when people say shit like, well, I against censorship, but when it comes to COVID, oh God, I mean, because the thing is, misinformation could lead to death. But all authoritarian regimes claim that there's a danger if information otherwise comes out.
They always try to find something to frighten you.
Yeah, exactly.
So whatever we do and we say, you will just go along.
You just accept it. But of course, they don't ever say, well, there's no harm to this, but we're going to ban it anyway. Of course, they always say that there's a great... So when in China, they want to, from what has been reported in mainstream media is that the Chinese government is trying to halt the feminization of their men. So they've kind of removed these influencers off of social media who were kind of a little bit fishy, right? No, you can say, oh, they can't hold you, do that, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? The Chinese government would probably tell you. They would say, listen, we believe in family values and we believe in strong men and we believe that that's how you build a strong nation. So anything contrary to that is undermining the interests of China as a nation.
Right, and we don't want China to end up looking like America, where people figure you could back how low they want, you watch it like you're a punk, and we go do what we want.
Exactly. So the Chinese authorities there wouldn't just say, well, nah, we just do like Chichi man, so that why we... No, they will give you a very what could appear to be reasonable and legitimate reason. And they could say how, listen, if we allow this to happen, it can cause harm. They could say they're managing the population rates and having, homosexuality run rampant could affect. The point, they could always use an excuse. And that's what you need to bear in mind so that you don't ever excuse it. You don't ever say, well, nah, it's okay because it's what I want. I agree with the censorship this time. So that's what I find you should do. No, you always have to remember this tool could be used by people who aren't like you.
Right. Yeah. And eventually it might be used against you.
Precisely.
Right.
And it's being used now in Russia. And you don't like that. You find that it's nonsense. And the press should be free to report whatever. And if somebody has an anti-Putin sentiment, they should be able to express it. I've been saying people should have been able to express lots of things for quite some time. But you all found, nah, shut them people up.
All they wanted to cancel Joe Rogan. You understand?
And let me not even go so far as in America. I just talk about right here, where,
they want to cancel Akashvi's name, Samaru.
Anybody who questioned whether these things were necessary, all of these measures were necessary. But you see, them talking about rights and things, people dying out here talking about rights. That's exactly when...
That's so much thing I could put in here because remember the horse space, the horse, the woman.
Yeah.
The studies.
You're seeing certain things coming out.
Science came out. It came out.
Well, it's coming out. It's coming out.
And some come out.
Yeah, it's, but they.
This is Santosh Yamura, and this is William Campbell. And of course, they co-won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for the discovery of ivermectin. And I really think this is going to be one of the huge scandals of this pandemic. So people that call ivermectin horse paste, well, it won a Nobel Prize, for human medicine, of course, as it's revolutionised some aspects of parasitology in poorer countries. And this is in patients treated with ivermectin. versus patients treated with remdesivir. So dirt cheap ivermectin, Nobel Prize winning drug, remdesivir expensive antiviral. Now, this was taken from 44 healthcare organisations and 68 million potential patients in the United States, and the data was collected from the 1st of January 2020 to July the 11th, 2021. So that's about 18 months, isn't it? Results: 41,000 patients who had COVID-19. So 41,608 patients had COVID-19. Treated with ivermectin, the group there was 1,072. Treated with the much more expensive remdesivir, 40,536. So again, we've got two groups now. Clearly, there's a lot more in the remdesivir group than in the ivermectin group. But a group of 1,000 is really quite a good group. Well, not good. You want a bigger group as you can get. But it's a good-sized group on which to do statistics. You get very, very valid statistics from a group of that size, of 1,000. Ivermectin was associated with the reduced mortality versus remdesivir of the odds ratio of 0.381. In other words, you're about 70% less likely to die if you take ivermectin compared to taking remdesivir. And the p-value there is 1 in. Is that 1 in? That's 1 in. So that would be 1 in 10. That would be 1 in 100. That would be 1 in 1,000. So that's 1 in 10,000. So the results of that arising by chance are 1 in 10,000. Very unlikely to arise by chance.
Those things, I'm telling you, they will be refuted. They're not. Nobody's gonna. They're not gonna go down without a fight. They're not gonna be like, yeah, no, okay, the studies proved us wrong. We're just moving on. No. So that's why I say the science is coming out. It's coming out. But right, you see, and it appears that we may not have been as certain about that drug. We still won't name.
And, so far it says it was a 48% reduction. I think you saw a 70% reduction in people, if you took it prophylactically, 70% reduction in people getting the virus itself.
Contracting it.
Right?
Yeah.
And then 48% reduction in death.
In hospitalizations and deaths.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
Just saying, we could have probably saved 1,500 lives.
Right. And think about, and this is...
Could have, I don't know.
And
I'm not a scientist.
Neither of us are scientists.
But I'll put in the clip.
But you see, and this is why I get so angry. This is why you need to be able to question people. Because some of the people who were shouting from the rooftop as if they knew, and all they were doing was parroting information. They were saying, well, them say it, so we have to say it. They didn't know. They didn't know. And they still don't know. But they weren't just saying things like, well, it's kind of inconclusive. Yeah. So right now, we go into what trusted or what, there's a kind of a fog, a haze surrounding that, and we not, the science is too murky.
Yeah. We don't want to risk it. We don't want to take that chance and put the population at, you
could have said all of those things. Yeah. You could have said, which would have suggested to me that, hey, listen, I'm not just parroting something. I'm saying to you, listen, we've tried to kind of demystify what's the situation with this, but right now it seems, no, but you didn't say that. You shout from the, that no work, and you're taking that time.
And end up in hospital, people dying.
Like if what them was using was working, right? But that's what they were saying.
And it's the funny thing, boy, back in the day, right? I mean, I don't know how some of your parents grew up, but you come when you say something little dotish, right? And your parents like, who tell you that? So you really come back and repeat the same thing that person tell you didn't think about it.
Yeah.
They will say, you're a dummy.
Yeah.
Are you a dummy? Your parents would ask you that.
Yeah.
Now they'll probably say that is abuse. But the thing is, it's the same question. WHO say something and you come back and parrot it and you do no investigation, you check are you a dummy?
Yeah.
You understand?
There is suggestion. There are suggestions out here that it's working. People, instead of getting on the phones, as Vera said, and speaking with the colleagues and counterparts, hey, what is really going on here? Thing. None of that. I don't know. To be honest, we shouldn't say they didn't do that. They probably would claim that they properly investigated the claims, if at all. But they just went with, nah, that'll work. So don't even think about it. Don't even try. Don't even.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go back to Russia and them.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide we're not going to buy any more oil from Russia.
Right.
We're going to link up with Venezuela.
Right.
No.
What we're going to attempt to link
We're
up
going
with
to
Venezuela.
attempt, but I think they'll get you. I think.
Well, I mean, but Venezuela, funny. Now look at this. You are trying to stifle Russia, but you are now turning to one of the few nations that has made it clear that they are in support of what Russia is doing.
Yeah.
So you are going to now turn your efforts towards a nation that is friendly,
Right.
with Russia.
And I think the reason they went to that nation is because they know that nation right now pocket little dry now, boy. I think so.
But forget whether it will work or not. Think about the rationale. Remember, these are supposedly sensible, intelligent individuals.
I think what they're trying to do is to buy them out. Is in terms of when I say buy their loyalty now, boy. So I think
that's not going to happen. They know that.
Serious.
They know that. They know they are not going to turn a Maduro government into a puppet state of the United States. Never happening. But I mean, we reaching real far. That is like me saying, boy, I don't like what you doing, right? You doing somebody, and I don't want to get no war with you. But you know what? I go stop support your business because me and like what you doing. But then I go and shop by your wife. What? Am I a dunce? What you're trying to pretend to the world that you're being firm with Russia. So you're turning now to a nation that's friendly to Russia, and you don't think that in some way, shape, or form, the money you send to them may very well end up
Go
there?
back there.
Are you dumb? What? And the next thing is you're saying you're not ramping up your own oil production and gas production because environmental purposes, right? You know, green energy. But then you're just having somebody else produce the oil. So it's only your country you care about. So somebody else could bellow it out into the air in another. Make it make sense, bro. But we were talking earlier about how stupid people are and how people don't think things through. So the same person who would have voted for that party in the United States because they supposedly care about environment and anti. So a regime that is committing all sorts of atrocities, you say, against the people, you are now turning to them and going to enrich them to spite Russia. And that nation not only is committing, not me say that, you say that, committing all sorts of atrocities against its people.
And when you say me, not me, you're talking about the
right,
US.
The US, yes. That is essentially promoting a anti-democratic regime in place over there. You are now going to give them money, and they are also friendly with the nation they're trying to spite. Bro, make it make sense.
So, what do you think is what they're trying to do, or what you think they're just gonna play a little show, and then Maduro say, "Nah, well, we'll go from here."
I think Maduro and them will sell oil to them. I think they want money, so they'll sell oil.
Yeah, I think that's what happened too, and I think if oil start back to sell there, and England say, "Look here, we could take oil from you too," I think.
Well, I don't know if they have the production to supply all these major nations. But I think they will get through. I think they will get through.
I think Venezuela could rise to prominence again in the next 2 years if that deal happens.
If it's sustained, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't know what could happen there. I mean, they will probably get through with the oil. I'm just saying that's not going to affect the situation in Russia. You know what I mean? That's not going to affect Russia's current course of action at all. They seem to have been doing a lot to insulate themselves over the past few years because they knew the West would do this when the time came. But I thought when you asked what I feel is going to happen, I thought he was going to ask what's going to happen in the United States, whether, if Joe Biden would survive, because when the gas prices start to
I mean, of course, the gas prices already started to jump, right?
Right. But when it really reach dumb status, I don't know. Some people, the conspiracy theorists, feel that this is all part of the scheme to promote the climate agenda, and so because remember, everybody keeps saying that the environmentalists keep saying that change over to green energy, it can't happen gradually.
Right.
People go always find an excuse to keep kicking the can down the road. If just get them a 2 years of pain and then inspire them to switch over quickly. So
and to be fair, a lot of car companies are saying by most of them are like 2024, 2025.
No, but that's because of legislation passed in the United States, and in other major developed nations. They passed legislation to mandate that a certain amount of cars become electric by a certain.
No, but there's some of them that saying that not even certain. No, some of them saying
Right,
by that time we won't have any combustion engine vehicles.
No. Well, they would say that's the aim, but I think in the legislation they have quotas, 60%, 50%.
No, but I think, but there's some of them who making these statements bold in a way.
The car companies,
yeah,
but they've been making those statements for years. Toyota, maybe 15 years, 10 years.
No, but now you might have inspiration to do it if you understand what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but the current that run in the cars that come from somewhere. The current is still generated in some way. You can't have all these lithium battery vehicles driving around, you plug it in at home. But how does the electricity get to your home?
Well, right, we have that. But of course, they could talk about probably solar and whatnot.
Yeah, but the point is that has to be ramped. There's no way at present for people for the energy consumption levels to remain even near the same and have it fueled by pure green energy, wind and solar. So you could claim could want to do that, but the current still has to come from somewhere. Yeah, but
that's one aspect, I don't know. What about the lithium to make the batteries? Well, that, of course, they're saying is our next big problem.
To mine it, and then, well, you give a certain degree of control to nations that have larger deposits of that. So yes, that's an issue. Then the environmental issues that come from mining that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All of these things are, but you feel people care? Again, once you say, I'm for green energy, you just get a big round of applause and people say, yeah. But nobody asks the question. So these wind farms, like how much space they're going to take up? Like, and what will we be destroying to build them? If we put them in the ocean, we destroying sea life. We destroying the habitat of a lot of aqua life, of sea creatures. If you put it on land, then where you gonna grow food? You know what I mean? These solar farms, where you gonna put them? How much space is necessary to have these solar farms to capture the energy and then to house the
because the next thing, especially countries like theirs, they have to hold real current because when they reach in times where they don't have as much sunlight and whatnot,
of course,
right? They had to be able to rail pull and rail store.
Exactly. So where's that going to take place? It's going to go underground. Nobody ever stops to ask that question because we're just dummies. You just say green energy and people say, yeah, green energy, and nobody asks the question.
I just saying I'm not against owning a Tesla. So Elon Musk, I understand. And if you want to send one because, I think, a Tesla representative in Trinidad and Tobago, I know a significant amount of things about cars, but I wouldn't interfere with yours because I know you don't like people to interfere with the vehicles, right? But yeah, I just say.
Yeah, I have no issue with electric cars either. If I could save on gas, you gotta know how much when it comes to current, how much.
Nah, it's working out real good.
Right. Well,
it would work out with the cost of electricity here.
Right.
For a week, I'm estimating what I just drive from Arima to Port of Spain. For a week, it will cost you about $35 in electricity.
Right. Well, right. So then, I have no problem with. For me, all I'm saying is, we all for that, but then nobody ever stops to think, okay, well, yes, we get rid of some of the emissions. Well, not some. We get rid of a large amount of emissions. But then the current that powers those cars has to come from somewhere. And if we're going to use oil and natural gas to produce it, then what are we really doing? So anyway, we done with Russia and
anything else you want to touch on the Russia thing?
No.
So you think the sanctions may not?
No, I don't think it's gonna put to Russia at all.
All right. Also, I'm starting to feel like Zelensky had reached a point where he's kind of begging for more support.
He still is, yeah.
And I think to him, he's starting to feel like, wait, boy, I get gas. I feel he's starting to feel like I get gas up, like, let's chain him up there. Long time, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody have an issue with you in school or whatever. And now then you taking that boy, that boy. And he
yeah.
decide, well, boy, I going and rush this
Yeah,
man. We going
yeah,
to taking that.
yeah.
Boy, I going and play real mad for this man.
Yeah.
And the man said, hey, there's some cough dog. And you're like,
All the people was gassing.
yeah, and like, where them fellas? And them
all they're doing is cheering. Yeah, boy, get up and eat my cough now. Boy.
and all them fellas they watching again, ass wash.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
hey, boy.
I don't know if he ever really thought that NATO would come to his aid. I mean, you had to think that he would be brighter than that. I don't know. I think that I think you're right. I think he did get gas. I think the West did. They baited him into playing a tough guy role.
Yeah.
They use him as a pawn essentially to bait Putin into some kind of crazy behavior. And now that has happened, I think he is realizing slowly but surely that the help is he has to win this on his own.
On his own, and
he's gonna have he get weapons from somewhere, wherever, but he's gonna have to win this on his own or lose it on his own, which is more likely what's gonna happen.
And I think that is where the action is gonna be. If I was him and I realized, well, I leave him out in the cold here, basically, I would have say, he not putting a sorry boy, dog boy. Where what? He just want them two places. And
well, I think the issue is the spokesman for the Kremlin put out a tweet, I think, the other day saying that there were three things.
Right, it was the two areas.
It was Crimea. So they want the Ukrainian government to formally recognize Crimea as part of Russia. They want independence in Donetsk and Luhansk.
And right.
And they want
the last things I can't remember.
The NATO
Right.
treaty agreement. They want them to amend the constitution of Ukraine and make it formal that they cannot join NATO.
Right.
And for those three things, then all the tweet was all military action would stop in a moment.
Right.
There's people are saying that behind the scenes, Russia is also asking for the demilitarization of Ukraine. And which people are saying, no, that's crazy. They're not going to just demilitarize. They're not going to disband the army and you just invade. You just invaded. So they gave up the nuclear weapons some years ago. They take gas from the US and gave up the nuclear weapons. And they were told, no, don't worry now, nothing will ever happen to you. If anything happens, we go help you out. And nothing happened. So now you can say, well, okay, give up your military. We gonna let you stay in power, but give up your military. No, I'm not doing that because as soon as I do that, he'll just come and invade the rest of the place. So they're saying that if that is true, if that behind the scenes talk about there being that other condition that they have to completely demilitarize, then obviously no agreement will ever be found.
Now, one more thing on the Russia thing before we go, before we switch topics.
Gears, yeah.
So I was seeing reports of Russia agreeing to have two different ceasefire moments, right?
Yeah.
For people to exit or people to
Humanitarian exit.
right, humanitarian exit. But they say both times that they fired on them.
Right. The Ukrainians are saying that. Yeah.
Right, the Ukrainians are saying that.
Yeah.
So you have any information that says different? I don't know.
Well, no, but it's being contested by both sides, and it wouldn't be surprising if that's what the Ukrainians would do. That they would pretend that, because remember, they want the Russians are claiming that the Ukrainians are using their military, they're using civilians as human shields. So they are launching attacks against Russian forces in the midst of evacuees, right? So they're pretending that people are leaving and then launching attacks from within those things. And then if Russia responds as, oh, they're shooting people who are just trying to leave. And this was supposed to be a humanitarian evacuation area. So that's what Russia is claiming. Obviously, you could see both sides of the argument, because Ukraine right now, they are trying, it would be within their interest to get maximum sympathy from the rest of the world, and nothing, would bring sympathy more than, the idea that Putin just indiscriminately killing civilians. And, so I haven't heard anything that, completely contradicts it, other than the Russians saying we didn't do that.
Right, which is everybody just giving their side.
Giving their side.
And one more thing, the evacuation of Ukraine and the racism against African people. The thing is, when I heard it and I hear people talking about it, my first thought was, I wonder if this is more of a visa issue or a passport issue, meaning that people with certain passports can go in certain places, people without certain passports can't go in certain places. If there's a trust issue, if they believe that these people are just using this as an excuse to seek refugee status in certain countries. That's my thought process. Like, is it that or is it actual racism?
Well, the complaint I've heard is not that Polish people on any other border are denying entry to the Africans. What I'm hearing is that when Africans show up at evacuation points and try to get on modes of transport, be it trains or buses that are taking people to the borders, they are being denied entry and they're being told, if you want, you could leave, but you had to walk. And I saw a report on the BBC of a Nigerian lady giving her experience. And they had videos. She was showing, a video she took, and I think, there was the translation was placed when she captured this guy in a uniform, telling her, no, she can't get on the bus, right? So that's what I heard were the instances of racism. I didn't hear about them reaching on any neighboring country's border trying to gain access to the country and being denied by that, because then it wouldn't be racism by Ukrainians, it would be racism.
So, all right, one of the videos I came across, and I hope to pull back all these videos because obviously I was watching a ton of videos over a period of time. One of the things was they were saying the Ukrainian side was saying, well, listen, it don't make sense we let all go because they only take in Ukrainians
on the other side.
The other side.
Okay.
So it doesn't make sense we let all go.
Right.
No, I'm not saying because there's some Jamaican people as well who had to go through river and had to walk forever long. Right? I also have a video, which I should be, because I think I sent it, where they were saying on the Polish side, apparently they didn't start to amend the immigration laws and things, early enough.
Yeah.
So first of all, the only people they were willing to really take was Ukrainians. And then even while the war had just started, they still wanted the vaccine issue. They wanted to make sure they were vaccinated. Right? And then eventually they dropped the vaccine thing, and then eventually they dropped the only Ukrainians because they had changed their immigration laws, I guess, or the immigration whatever, to facilitate Ukrainians for a period of time. And they didn't do that for people of other nationalities. And so they weren't taking anybody else. And then they said, nah, forget, let everybody come. And what they're saying is that obviously people who would have reached the Ukrainian side, the soldiers were like, nah, they're not taking any all the
right.
They're only taking Ukrainians. Right? And
so the reason why I actually wanted to film this is in the news. It's saying that Ukraine is not letting any Africans out of Ukraine, and
that's not true.
And Hungary is not allowing them in. So that's
not
true.
Hungary is totally.
There was an initial challenge
Poland is
at the
not
beginning where it was perceived that there was a hold up of our black brothers and sisters. But I think common sense prevailed. Let me put it that way. And now they were able to see that don't let us hold them up. They are all running away from the war area, regardless of the skin color. Let's allow all of them to come in. And then this lady,
it was from
is in a
Poland
birthday
that
mood.
some of our arrivals came from, because they went first to Poland and they got rejected at the border in Poland, and they walked more than 30 kilometers to come here.
It's more than 15 miles.
the thing is, what people were saying is that at the end of the day, they kind of know Ukrainians white. Which is kind of racist.
That's the part I was getting to. Well, going to get to eventually is that my thing is always, is this a racist thing or is this a nationality thing? Right. So in other words, would they do the same thing to Asian people?
Right.
Who were clearly not, because they're saying you're black, but it may not be, you're black meaning you're not from here. That's for sure. You know what I mean? Or at least you will have to prove to them that you're from there. So if you're black.
So the thing is, the same thing happened to Asian people.
So there's proof of that too.
Yes, there's proof that Asian people as well went through that, right?
Being told you're not Ukrainian. So, so it's not a race thing, it's a nationality thing. Right. And just with black people is the easiest way to tell you're not Ukrainian is to point to your color.
Right. Yes. Which obviously that doesn't prove it, because that's kind of racist, because you could have married and probably, I guess citizenship.
Yes, I mean, I'm sure that there are some Ukrainian-born or naturalized Ukrainian citizens who are black, but they wouldn't be in the majority. And I would assume that when they are told by somebody, or they might probably ask them firstly,
Right.
are you Ukrainian? And they say no. And they will ask you because, they have reason to believe you're not because of their skin color. So they say, are you Ukrainian? No. Well, then nah. Right? But I don't think it would be, hey, you can't go on the bus because you're not Ukrainian. No. I'm Ukrainian. Look my passport. Oh, okay. I believe that it would probably be, oh, okay, well then, go ahead.
Right.
But because we can tell that you're not Ukrainian because of your skin color, that becomes an issue.
Right. So, I mean, some of the things that obviously a lot of people do look at these things as wide. So
they don't care. They just they love to blow their horn about racism, so they don't want to hear nothing else. It's like, again, this satisfies my bias or what the thing I like to moan about on social media. So I'm gonna jump on board. And if you try to explain things like this, you just excuse anything. All right, brother,
so
no problem.
the thing is, I'll probably put a link to the video because trying to clip that video and put it in as a clip might be a bit action in terms of, because the video is pretty long, right? So there's a guy by the name of Johnny FD. Really not a big fan of him, but he is out there on the ground. He was one of the people who left Ukraine or whatever the case may be. And he met some African people in Hungary. And, they were talking about their trials and whatever. And, they were saying, we went to the Polish border first and it was real jam. So we decided to go on, we're going through Hungary side. Yeah. And they say they get through. They say, what they're saying, it was all about strategizing now, boy. It was about strategy, understanding. At some point, so could be too jam or too complicated. Let me go this way, right? And so they say they didn't really have that experience with the Ukrainian people. They reach and okay, well, to go, go ahead, right? They say okay, the taxi drivers are charging a little more than normal, but they say, well, okay, we can understand because gas prices started to skyrocket in Ukraine. Obviously, they running risk. They had a high risk, so they understood, and it wasn't like. If it was normally $5 US, it was like $25 US, right? So, he spoke to some African people and...
He got a different perspective. And so I'll probably put the clip over, we'll see how it goes. And I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. It does exist. I'm not saying I didn't happen to nobody there. Probably did, because at the end of the day, people are humans and people have their way they would feel about certain people. And I mean, let me be real. Some people might say... Let me save my people first. I think... I think some people might say that. I think that's generally what people say.
All right. So, and I will give you an example. I did a video on TikTok where I went and bought a burger from...
You on TikTok?
Yeah. Not heavily though.
Wow.
Right? But I went and bought a burger from some Spanish people. And a man come in my comments straight, yo, you ship it or you supporting them Spanish, ain't it?
Wow.
Nah, TikTok, people is come at you real hard. But I tell you, them things don't bother me. But people is come at you. Like, that time I buy doubles, but they just wrap up the doubles because we couldn't stand up on the doubles. So wrap up the doubles, came home and I did a video, I kind of review on eating the doubles. And because it was wrapped up already and get cold from where I bought it to hit when I reach home, I'm going to open up the double, so I kind of peeling back and eating like a sandwich.
Right. Man, not a problem with that.
Yeah, man, insult, man, oh boy.
Wow. And you just still be on this shit, boy. You don't. I don't. Anyway, all right, good.
Anyway, So the thing is, as I say, but the point I was making is that a man in this situation, a man say, if he vexed that I'm supporting, let's say a Spanish or a Venezuelan person, so give that man a gun by a border.
You
understand what I'm saying? You'd probably you can't come. You understand?
And I think a lot of people do that. And I think a lot of people don't. They say wherever they want, they pretend on social media to be, anti this and anti that. But, when the shit hit the fan. You know what I found funny? One of the videos when I saw somebody sent me a video with an African being interviewed saying how they were telling him to fight for Ukraine. And, and he was like, he was saying something completely different other than, not that he was being told he couldn't leave, but I think they were telling him he should fight for Ukraine, right? And I think, I don't know if he said it there because the caption was "Fight for Ukraine, you crazy," kind of some shit like that. But I didn't hear him actually say that. But the point is, I'm not Ukrainian, and I'm like, if this wasn't the scenario, what is normally the complaint of these immigrants? That they live in these places and people...
And don't treat them
and
equally.
They don't treat them like one of the people.
Yeah.
They could be there for 10,000 years, but they still don't treat them. So now one is saying, well, you're here, you're in Ukraine, fight for Ukraine. All of a sudden, but I'm not Ukrainian at all. Because obviously the arguments only use when it's convenient.
Yeah,
so when they don't feel welcomed, it's why they treat me like something, like I'm an other. You know, they other me. But now they're asking you, well, you're in Ukraine, well, fight for Ukraine. Me? I saw other? You asking? No, I mean, to be fair, some of them might say, well, I might have fought for Ukraine if while I was here, you made me feel Ukrainian. But let's be real, that's not true. That's not true. If they were saying that, let's say if they were dual citizens, right? They had both passports or whatever, and they said, well, listen, like they're saying no, if you're Ukrainian,
you can't leave.
And you're between so and so age and so and so age, what you feel like good and do? Not pull out the Ghanaian passport or the Trinidad passport. Hey, I'm not from here, brother. I gone. Because of it's always just like the people pointing out the feminist situation where they're not telling the women they have to fight, they're telling the men they have to fight. Where's all the arguments about
equality?
But I don't understand. I thought it was, how could you suggest that we can't fight for our nation too? There's no argument. Nobody's like, hey, we want equality in this situation too. No, it's not. It's because, again, not principled people. It's just wherever's convenient.
Yeah. So we jumping into to the last topic for the evening, which is
the announcements.
We getting eyes up. Getting eyes up. So when he made that, he was talking in Parliament, but last Friday or last Thursday.
I was on Saturday. I think it was
it was Parliament. I think the Parliament was the Friday or something.
I can't remember. It's all blurred together.
Yeah. So recently, Dr. Christopher Rowley, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, he went in Parliament and he was saying that, we no longer need to wear masks in cars with our families. That's one that I remember, obviously, because, now public gatherings could go up to 25.
Like if anybody was taking
right. You can now start back playing team sports.
Like they've been doing.
Right. Like they've been doing.
In every park and ball court for the past 6 months. Longer than that, to be fair.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Is that anything else important?
No. Well, the allowing unvaccinated children. No, that was before.
So now they step up the safe zone.
The safe zone capacity
to 75%.
Yeah. And public transport to 100%. And that's another thing I haven't seen being adhered to, especially in taxis. I haven't been observing maxis, but I've seen taxis filled to capacity
before.
all the time. Yeah.
H taxis or
H taxis, yeah. H taxis, yeah. I've seen H taxis filled to the brim, yeah.
So, right, we have that. They say taxis could go back to 100% capacity, safe zone 75% capacity. They say if we don't have any major life-threatening situation with the virus, children will be back out of school in April for the third term. That's a kind of positive.
Decreasing national quarantine time for contacts of positive cases from 14 to 10 days.
To 10 days, right.
Quarantine time will be reduced from 14 to 7 days, with discharge taking place on the receipt of a negative PCR test on the 7th day. That is for positive cases.
Right.
Number of persons permitted at graveside funeral services will be unrestricted, but mask wearing is mandatory for the time being. Removal of restrictions with respect to the length of time and numerical capacity at religious places of worship. Mask wearing will continue.
So that is basically they go back to 100%.
Yeah, they are allowed to fill their churches and they can stay for as long as they want.
Right.
You can have services for as long as they want. Right, yes, that's about it. That's important.
Right. Okay, so my first argument, which I posted on Facebook, right, was the argument. Help me understand. Bob, no, you're laughing like you know what I'm talking about, boy.
I suspect.
My first argument was this: safe zone, which is supposed to be mainly vaccinated people, right?
Not mainly only.
Well, remember, 12 years old and under unvaccinated could come in.
Right, yeah. Okay,
right?
cool, right.
So, mainly...
But we talk more entertainment spaces, bars and things.
Right,
you should have nobody under 12. Nobody. You should have nobody there who could be unvaccinated.
No, but let me look at things like
Five Islands.
Five Islands.
Your favorite place.
Yeah.
Water park.
Right? Five Islands. Or let's look at cinemas and restaurants and whatnot, right? Most of the time, if you go in a restaurant, you'll sit down by a table with people you're related to or came with, or you're not afraid to interact with very closely, right? But you have to sit down in a taxi or a maxi, rubbing shoulders with somebody else who may not be vaccinated, right? Not that I care, but I'm just saying, based on the premise, right? And at 100% capacity, I really want to. So
no, but you'll be wearing a mask there.
Oh,
you'll be wearing a mask in the.
And
masks, as we all know, are force fields. Okay, they're force fields, so it
Yeah, because the thing is, in a
and I don't want to work in a mask either. It could be N95 could be well fitting.
It could be a jersey.
A man, you could have a little them nylon thing that men just pulling over their face.
It could be a bandana, right?
Yeah.
Because even if you're wearing the cheap surgical masks, well, I guess I don't know if you can call it surgical masks, but the cheap masks on them, that when they put it on the side here, there's poke out, so. The side here, there's poke out, that kind of way. You understand? That if you breathe this, feel the air come out on the side, right? And you sit down in a taxi. Air condition up, sun these days blazing hot. Right? So air condition on, windows up.
Well, these days it isn't blazing, but it actually...
Well, no, yeah, right?
We had a little winter weather, but...
And somebody jam up next to you. That is fine. But go in a restaurant where, let's be real.
Well, I mean, their rationale would be that the safe zones are places where people tend to get reckless, right? Because
but then my thing is,
whereas a taxi, you're not in a taxi for hours.
No, but then I mean, at times they could be in a taxi for hours.
Well,
but the thing is, 30 minutes in a taxi situation could be way more.
No, I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree, but I'm just saying this is probably what they would say. They would say that in a safe zone, especially the entertainment safe zones, people out of timing, right?
Well,
they have no behavior.
And my thing is then just put the 75% on bars. But when you reach restaurants or you reach wherever, oh God, ease up the people, let them make the money. And
listen, I feel it's just ease up everybody. But their rationale would be, no, this doesn't jive with the idea that you keep calling them safe zones. But so there's so much that don't make sense. But the rationale would be that safe zone could be a super spreader because the behavior people would be engaging in would mean spread. And you're limiting the amount of people.
So the only thing that really safe about the safe zone is the amount of people. Is limited people.
Yes. So you don't want a safe zone where spread is more likely to take place because people are engaging in behavior that is more likely to cause a spread. You don't want the spread in that area to be too uncontrollable, right? So if you have a safe zone, and yes, there might be spread, but only 3, 4, 5 people for the night might catch it, as opposed to if you let the place full up, and then again, I just playing devil's advocate here, and you let the place full up, and it's 20 people leave the bar that evening with COVID, and now go to spread to everybody in the household. That I believe is what they would claim to be the rationale. Now, as I say, it doesn't jive with the idea of calling it a safe zone, right? But that is the strategy that the dum-dums have decided to use to try to manipulate you mentally into feeling that, the place is safe.
As you talking about safe zones, you watch Iowa. You saw videos of Iowa.
Yeah. Of him performing, I mean?
No, this might sound very judgmental. And I just judge people. I judge people wrongly too. That's life.
Everybody judges people.
Right? I admit it, right? Because some people don't admit it, right? A lot of them people didn't look like they would have been vaccinated, boy. They didn't look like the demographic for vaccines. I'm just saying. You understand?
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of allegations of, craziness taking place in somebody. When I say craziness, not craziness, but just people being lax in terms of the enforcement of the only vaccine cards could enter.
Right.
I heard, I don't want to name the events, but I heard that people told me they went to those events and they saw people not be asked to produce the card.
All right. So I will name voice event. I know somebody who went voice event and they said when they entered, it seemed they entered for voice event. I think they said they went on the pod side. I can't remember. They went because they went, most of the events that happened around that time, right? And they said when they went voice event, they had what looked like health officials, because they said the people in white and whatever. So they said it's not irregular security, get to check your vaccine card. That these particular officials, they had to go on that tent, sanitize your hand, and then present your vaccination card.
Sanitize your hand, though.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right?
Oh,
and
Lord.
Yeah. You can sanitize your hand.
That whole time you're inside, they ain't gonna never touch your nose, ain't gonna touch nowhere. So that's why it's so important to sanitize your hand, because if you come with COVID, it stay outside. Now it's not grocery you're going in for 2 minutes to walk in and walk out. You're going to an event where you're going and be singing and laughing and dancing. But it's very important that you wash your hands before you come
Wipe
inside.
sanitizer, whichever one,
Oh, Jesus. Oh.
Just don't listen. You had to understand, and I realize all you fail to understand what's going on here. You see the COVID that is outside the event. We want that one, leave that one outside. You could even inside COVID. There's two different COVID. But nevertheless, and that was one person was saying with voice event. It worked out pretty well. As we saw with the second star event when Patrick, hype man Patrick, decided to let everybody recrossing the stage and men around on the stage. They said that didn't really happen for long now. They said the videos would make you feel like that was a real proper jam session for a good period of time. They say nah. They say if they get a proper 5 minutes, they didn't get much. Right? They say the authorities really clamp down on it. But they did say in the pod situation, it was voice. It was in the pod. He said in the pod situation that was chaotic. 20 people in a pod. You bounce up a bridge and them, you run up in the pod, you lime. They say, nah. He said, at that point, he was liming in a pod. He said, boy, you help plenty of in the pod, boy, dog, boy. And he said, I see some officials coming up, and I say, oh, I bet you're going to jump. And he said, they just watch. Firemen, fire officials watch, and they go on their way. Security was the, he said, that was chaotic.
Yeah. I want you to think about this carefully, right? Think about this. We are being told that these restrictions are being eased because we are now in a better situation with respect to hospital capacity and what appears to be the virulence of the virus, right? So, but one of the restrictions that's being removed because we are in a better position, supposedly, is a measure that was in place that would never have been preventing spread in the first place, which is the family thing. Now, they didn't just say no mask wearing in private vehicles.
Right.
They said he literally said you can now drive in a car with members of your family without a mask. At no point in time was that affecting spread. No point. Think about that. We are now being told that something that was never preventing spread at all is we supposed to view that as an ease of a restriction that has a scientific basis. Now, as I say, you didn't just say, well, because the thing is, to be fair, I have never heard them express that restriction as one on family members. They've just said, well, listen, in vehicles you have to wear a mask once you're in a vehicle with somebody else, right? And obviously, well, the implication being that it is even if the person is a member of your family, but it was really meant for private vehicles or vehicles in general. Once you're in a vehicle with somebody else, you have to wear a mask. He didn't say, well, that's gone. Vehicle mask. No, he said, no. So he recognizes that what we were doing before was really retarded, It was really because prior to today, you had to wear a mask in the car next to your wife, who you would have just been in the same household with. So that is a restriction that never, ever, ever should have been in place because it never, ever, ever had an impact on the spread of the virus. It never would have. It never would have, because you live in the household with the person. But that is being removed now, though, because we are in a better position. So it never had any effect on the spread. So it didn't lead to us being in this position in the first place. But
because
it's now being removed.
When I heard that, my first question was, so can we now walk in the street without a mask?
Right.
No. So what you're telling me is, if I'm in the street by myself, right? Let's just say I decide to take out the garbage and an asshole police decide to pass. You done wear mask. Now wear mask inside. And he could decide he can't.
You could stop. You could jump out your car. One of them tried to do me that the other day.
Seriously, jump out your car?
Yeah. I was waiting. I was the same day I was waiting on my mother. And so I got fed up. I was sitting in the car. So I stood outside the car. He passed in the vehicle. He watched me. And I think he expected me to put on the mask now. So he passed me. And he turned. And he come back. And I see him pull up. I saw him watching me when I was passing. When he was passing. But I didn't take him on. And he come back. I know that's what he coming to do. Wear a mask. I just sit down in the car. I didn't answer him. I just sit down in the car.
Because you're arguing on, you could sit down in the car with the window down.
And sneeze outside.
Yeah. And nothing wrong with that.
And cough.
But if you stand up outside the car and don't do anything but breathe.
Yeah. I just stoops, open the car door and sit down. And I didn't wind down the glass. I see he watching me. But I didn't wind down the glass to hear what he was gonna say. But I suspect he didn't have the ticket book on him now because he probably would have wanted to give him a ticket.
Yeah.
But I didn't care about he and that. So
right now also I have a little cousin. He was riding on his street. He's 7 years old, and a police officer passed in a van and brace him. It's either you go inside and stay inside, or you go hang a mask and come back outside. But I don't know. And they had said
8 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, if he had said he was 7, then
well, obviously he don't know that. He don't know the law is for children. Over.
No, I'm just saying. But if he had said he was 7,
when they say so, the police officer didn't ask him how old he is.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he just went back inside.
Right.
Mommy, I had to get a mask. What? Why I need to get a mask? Because the policeman out there, I had to come inside and I want to go back outside and ride. What?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
And that could only happen. Now, that guy, the police officer, who tried to jump me, that's the first time I've had an interaction with anybody regarding any mask.
Second.
Second time, yes. Yeah, you're right. But I've heard about people having constant interactions with...
Yeah, I know people with 6 tickets, I think.
Yeah, constant. I would have had about 1 million if people was taking me on all the time, right? And this is being allowed to happen. Because the point I was making is that mostly police who see me, they don't be on me, right? Prior to this family thing, I never ever drove in a car with my family members and a mask. The principle of that is just, it violates my personal constitution to conform to a nonsensical law like that. I'm not advocating anybody break the law before somebody say, oh, you don't telling people. I'm not telling you do what you want to do, bro. But I just could not. Compliance with that law, to me, it just violated every fiber of my being. So I never did that. And I passed 1 million police vehicles. And nobody's ever stopped me and asked me or my wife or any and nothing, right? So I would say if I was just going by my experience, the police in Trinidad have sense now, boy. They'll go, they could use a discretion. They could, but then I keep hearing about instances like that, and then you remember I used to keep telling you, I think they're just putting the policy in place because that look like they're doing something, but they ain't really enforcing that. But then nobody always used to say but then you're giving the asshole police and them a chance now. Because a police who want to jump here, now they have, because that guy, that police officer passed me that day. As I say, I think the only reason he didn't come because he didn't have a ticket. But you know what he do that for? I wasn't putting anybody at risk. He just fine. But you ain't care. You supposed to see me and dip. You understand what I'm saying? And the thing is, if I'd seen him and dip, he'd have been satisfied. Because, all right, you're afraid the police. That's what he want.
Yeah.
He don't care about COVID. He don't care. He wants you to afraid the police. You know what I mean? Because me, he probably, respect any household, he cheering on his custom, whatever. But he could come out here like a security guard and get, a little dose of respect for the day. And he's allowed to do that because we have jackasses in office who keeping a policy in place for no reason other than the optics of it. They know it's a pappy show. We know it's a pappy show. They have not ever established that it has had any effect on the rate of spread in this country. They've never conducted any study to that effect. They cannot prove to me that having it in place saved any lives in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not talking about mask wearing in particular situations. I'm not talking about people in an enclosed area.
Right.
For lengthy period. No, I'm talking about walking in the streets. You understand? None of them could come here and tell me that worked. And they could prove that to me. All that has been is just, well, we had to look like we're doing something. So, and now, you know why it's not being removed? The Prime Minister gave you a clue as to why it's not being removed. Because the WHO is still recommending it.
Right.
And that's all they're searching for. Cover. Don't blame me, the WHO. I don't know common sense. I can't tell you. Nah,
So, you're going on. Next election, then don't vote for PLM, vote for WHO.
Yeah. Don't have a Minister of National, Minister of Health.
Yeah.
Just, the WHO, what to use? What medicine I could use? We facing a little public health issue here. What's the policy?
Yeah, what to do?
You understand what I'm saying? That's all that it's in place for. Everybody knows it's now, as again, and people going to jump in and they have studies that show that yes, I'm not talking about people wearing masks properly and wearing it in a confined area
and enclosed, air-conditioned, recirculating air situation.
Right.
We are speaking about you decide you want to walk down the road, you want to walk by the parlor, not go in the grocery, you want to walk by the parlor, stand up, how the parlor, parlor is behind somehow, all they feel all the two stores, all they know about parlor. But the parlor, you stand up outside and you talk to the woman through the window and she go get the thing on them. Right? We talking about, I decide, boy, I want to go and carry my children to go around the savannah.
Yeah.
So them riding on the bicycle and I walk in and I walk in my dog.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And the thing is, if we always talk about science and what the bigger countries do, mandated mask wearing outdoors is not prevalent across the developed world. Even some places with some of the most draconian restrictions when it came to COVID, like Canada, it's at no point in time do I could remember that in any province in Canada, it was mandated for you to wear masks outdoors. And if it was for a very, very short period of time, maybe when Omicron came in and they were trying to say, well, that rate of spread was so frightening that, they felt that was necessary. But in general, in the United States and Australia and all these places, mask wearing outdoors was never, ever mandated.
The thing is, this is how I started to feel now. Well, no, I'm starting to feel this way now. I felt this way a while. But I think now it's proven me or make it or confirming my beliefs. It feel like we give the powers that might be extra authority or extra power and they find it hard to release that power.
Well, I think that's the case in some developed countries. Honestly, I don't think that's the case here in Trinidad.
I think you find it hard to release the power. And you could use, right here in Trinidad, they could use WHO and other things as a disguise for why it shouldn't. Because we could, you don't have to, as you know, they don't follow everything WHO says, right? And something like walking outside in the roadhouse, because I am not saying remove mask mandates completely. What I'm saying is,
I think it should be. I think at this stage, but I'll tell you my view just.
My thing is, if you had to go into government offices, air-conditioned offices, or whatever the case may be, cool. You could leave it there for that, right? And that's because I think if you just leave it up to the government office to say you have to put on a mask or not, people, oh, I pay my taxes, you can't tell me to wear no mask or whatever. So give them that power. If you want with private institutions, they could say if they want to wear a mask or not, and obviously they could refuse service to you if you do wear a mask. But obviously, as I say, you don't want to kind of tie up that with the passport office or you understand, immigration or not immigration. The next one, they just go and get ID card and them kind of thing, or license office. You don't, so you leave it for that. But really and truly outside, and yeah, I think they should just remove it and done.
I think they should remove it completely, because I think that no one can explain to me now what is the purpose of it. Because as far as I'm aware, Trinidad and Tobago is not pursuing a zero COVID agenda, right? At no point in time have they ever articulated to us that that's what we are engaging in. Some countries have said outrightly that's what they're trying to do.
Right.
But we haven't.
And they feel it now.
Right. But they've made it clear. We haven't. So as far as I'm aware, these things have just been put in place to control the spread so that we don't have a situation where the healthcare system is on the brink, right? That, if I'm wrong, somebody could correct me, but I believe that is supposed to be the underlying objective of all of these measures. And it was never, the government never really gave anybody the impression that, there is any conceivable situation where you are not going to encounter the virus, right? Now, you as an individual, you could pursue a zero COVID agenda if you want. You could wrap yourself in saran wrap. You could stay in your house forever, wherever. But the point is, I think nobody has given the impression that it is feasible for you to believe that you could go on the rest of your life once you wear a mask and social distance, and it would be possible for you to avoid coming into contact with COVID at any point in time. Again, if I'm wrong, then tell me. So if that is the case, and we are seeing, the Prime Minister said, that we are seeing rates of spread that are similar to Delta, but not the commensurate hospitalizations and deaths. The vaccines are available to everybody. And not me saying this, but the trusted authorities have made it clear COVID is not going anywhere. Right? So what is the purpose of having the mask mandates in place? What are we doing other than giving people the impression that bobbing and weaving and ducking COVID is still a thing? No, they're saying, listen, it's not going anywhere. You have to determine how you're going to deal with that reality.
Yeah. And I mean, so I understand you put it's self-accountability now. Well, boy, if I think the mask will save man, I want to wear two masks still. I wear my two masks still. Right. And you want to watch all of you like mad. People want to walk around without masks.
Exactly.
That's fine. You do what you need to do to protect you.
Exactly. Now we know what you're dealing with. Everybody knows what they're dealing with. You get vaccinated if you feel that's what you need to do. You wear 1 million masks if that's what you feel you need to do. But for the rest of why are we still being told to do this? I don't understand what is the objective. Because my thing is, if we can't take it off now, when can you take it off? When COVID disappears? And clearly it's not disappearing. And it's not disappearing. So then what is the purpose of it now? The healthcare system is not under strain. You made that very clear.
We saw just 2 deaths today. Obviously, every death is
but bad. And the thing is, again, this people might say this sounds callous, but that is not even relevant at this stage because we know what the virus could kill you, right? We know what we could do to protect ourselves. And some people are willing to take the risk, roll the dice. The only thing that matters is the state of the healthcare system and in terms of the amount of hospitalizations that we're dealing with. So what is the point of what is the aim? What is the objective? I know what the aim is. The aim, and coming back to the thing about them not wanting to relinquish power, I don't think it's a situation where like we have power hungry tyrants in Trinidad who just love ordering people around. I think what it is they are so scared of being blamed for an issue. Now they will say they're scared of lives being lost. They will, say, well, we just want to make every effort to make sure that, we do everything to save lives, and even if it means keeping this mandate in place, whether they're doing something or not, But what it really is politicians playing politics. And the optics of the matter is, well, listen, this could still, because you hear it in Terence D'Alsing's voice and you hear it in Keith Rowley's voice. they want to make it 100% clear that you don't think COVID is done. Right? And I don't think that they want that because they like to order people around. I think they want that because they're so afraid of something happening and they're being blamed, and people say, well, you see, them was reckless, and that's why the thing on the...
Here we go, as Corey said in his podcast, right? After we see going in the savannah, for the past couple of days, right? For the days that it went on. My thing is, first thing, second starting when they reach on the stage, right?
But there was no mask wearing.
Right? And then we reached quite Monday with Iowa. How come at no point Ole jump up and say, well, yeah, what going on? Because at the end of the day, let me be real. Don't make it sound like that was hard to stop.
Exactly.
I have been a party promoter for many years, probably 15 years, right? And all the police had to come hurry DJ and say, stop the music.
Yeah.
And the music stops. Sometimes we go try to go up, stop the music.
Yeah.
The music stops.
And it comes on the PA system.
And well, no, the police officer will tell you first, they'll tell you, if you're the mic man or the DJ or whatever, the promoter go run to see it. Here we're going on. We're going to leave the music off until this happens, or that's the end.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the end. Right? And I'm telling you, I've been through that on numerous occasions where I was on the DJ side of things. It wasn't my event, and the police stopped the party for whatever it may be, misbehave here, or whatever it may be, right? And that's all. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take having to go and tell everybody, yeah, pull up your mask. Because you know, really, people, when I tell people about it, say, but what would I do? They can't get everybody to wear their mask. That's not what they do. They just normally say, stop the music. This is what's going to happen.
If the authorities wanted to lock down on that, they could have locked down on that easily. And they saw it. They were asked about it. And what did the health minister say? I know we not in charge of that. That is up to them. Them had to enforce that. We to let them know the rules and the parameters. Everybody knows how the safe zone is supposed to operate. So that is you saying me and care.
But then on the next hand, and that's why I'm confused. You couldn't let me see that, and then still come and tell me.
And that's why people. Well, you say that the people you speaking to seem to be happy for the ease up. I find that I'm seeing the opposite. I see a lot of people who feel like, hey, you're pappy showing, man. We saw what happened on them days. Nobody stopped them. All the videos, nobody show up in any one of them fete and make a scene and let people know, hey, this is not how it is go. The thing down in Five Islands, that was just a scanty fete. It was a fete, and it was a scanty fete because compared to what you normally have. But it was a fete. There was no social distancing. There was no mask wearing. There was nobody even seemed perturbed. You didn't even see people with masks on the chin. They just were absent, right? So the thing is, when people see that, and then they're like, you're pappy showing me.
Nah. So
go ahead.
This is one of the last statements I'll make before we close off. Before they came and said that families could not wear masks in the car, right? I was going to print, because they say if you want to create something as a safe zone, right? You could, but I mean, they were very specific what could be a safe zone, right? But still, I was going to be facetious here and print it and stick it on my car, and so because when I got the ticket for not wearing my mask, I was eating. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, he claimed you wasn't eating all the time.
Yeah.
Right, and he find you should have the mask on your chin, take a bite and put it back up. You know what I mean? You should do like what the American politicians suggest you do. Take a nibble, put it back up. You know what I mean? But that was his issue.
Right? So I was thinking about that, but then they come and say, but it shouldn't have to be go away and
you know what will irritate me, and I'm hoping that this they don't let them little children go back out to school
and force them to wear masks.
Force them to wear masks. I have 2 9-year-olds, and
honestly, I don't care about it, because my daughter, she's gonna do what she wants. You gonna tell her about the mask, she gonna take it off. She telling teacher will quarrel, and because I don't know, she it's one of them children who like buffing don't really penetrate now, boy. You understand?
Yeah.
So she could thing and take it off and she could do what she want. And I mean, obviously, I would prefer they not have it like that.
Yeah,
but if they have it like that, I know she would do what she wants. So,
Like,
whatever.
you see, and that makes it more irritating because if it's just for stop it. If it's not working, this.
Oh, cool. Sorry. You know, I now remember the conversation we had with the 4th teacher in our class, boy. I know, yeah, good.
A school out there doing the cycling of the students, but not social distancing with the students who are in school, which is supposed to be the purpose of cycling the students.
So I have 40 children
Sitting
in an air-conditioned classroom for a whole week, and then the next week they're home.
because our next batch out. Now, he didn't. Now, to be fair to them, the best argument you could give is that they have an issue with the communal spaces. Like if you bring the whole school in, when they go on break at the same time, which they could stagger, which would make more sense. So you have
different
lunch times. And have no break, shorten the school day. So you have one break and you have people cycle, which would be a lot more, and just let them come to school every day. But they would probably claim that is the communal spaces that they're worried about. But the communal spaces would be outdoors.
Right.
And that would probably be safer. But you are keeping the children in an enclosed, air-conditioned room. No social distancing taking place in that room. And you're having them spend an entire day in school for a week. And telling me that the purpose of keeping them home the next week is because, we had guidelines, You see, and these are the things that irritate me because these are things that are in place for show and show only. And they're affecting, they think that these things have no consequence. Because if you ask a lot of people about mask wearing, I think they know it's bullshit, but it's just, to them, it's just a mask. Just wear the mask, now. You know what I mean? Why I think they have it in place? They don't care. Remember, we were talking about the environmental problems coming with all these masks being wasted, and but they don't have that to study because them on optics, so nobody ever stops and says, hey, listen, this thing that we insisting people do, how much is it helping? Is it helping 2%, 10%, 15%, 100%? I'm not saying they're not helping at all, but maybe it's helping 2%. Is it worth having a mandate in place if it's only helping 2%? If it's helping 25%, maybe 30%, 50%, but you have to establish that. It's been in place for 2 years now. I could understand you put it in, well, not 2 years, but almost 2 years. September will be 2 years because it's after the first
lockdown,
first major the post-election outbreak is when they brought in mandatory mask wearing in public, right? So it's a year and a quarter, right? That has been in place. Have you observed? Have you done any studies?
Nah,
of course not.
No studies been done here.
Because you think that is something that even if it's not working, it ain't costing me nothing. It is. It is costing young people mental frustration, not being able to see people's faces. And when they send them back out to school, they're going to have teachers running behind little 9-year-olds and 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds. And then the next thing, so if them had to wear masks and they're watching the infants walking around with no mask, how that working out? You understand what I'm saying? Because they're going to be seeing, or them, because you can't put a mask on 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. Even if you wanted to, you could. Well, in California, it is. Yeah. Let me not say you can't, because you could get really dumb, right? But they could try, but they're not going to have that. I don't think they're going to attempt to do that with infants. So you're telling, my children will be watching children who are, some of them their size, or but they just happen to be under a certain age, not wearing a mask, and they had to wear the shit with this on the face.
No, you're right. You could just imagine, right? So, like, if you're a young child, right? So, if you happen to be 8 and but in a class with normal 9-year-olds, what happen? Or if you're old, like you say, you're a 9-year-old child and you get kept back, whatever. So, in a class now, so what are they going to do? Teacher going to tell, well, no, you're 9. So you're going to have to put on the mask. And the rest of the 8-year-olds in the class, they don't have to wear the mask. So, you can just imagine. So like, if I hear about that, I want to cry. I'm telling you, I go and cry, right? And I'm telling you.
And you're going to put people through that for what? For what? So that you could just say, well, I have this thing in place and I go in with what the WHO say and take it. And that's where you get, when we encourage the kind of politics that we have now, this politics of optics. You know, there's no leadership. It's simply, it's just lick your finger, which way the wind blowing, what the people feeling, what could get away with. That's what you're getting as governance, not leadership. Not people say, well, all right, listen, hear this now. Somebody tell me, this thing working or not? This thing in place?
Well, I think he asked WHO, he didn't ask somebody here. And that's what WHO says so.
Well, the WHO, I don't know if the WHO recommends mask wearing. I don't think that they recommend what we're doing.
Right.
You know what I
They
mean?
didn't recommend their mandate.
You understand what I'm saying? So at this stage, like we were saying before, it could be, you do that. If you choose to send your child to school with a mask, I feel sorry for your child, but you do that. No
and the thing is, because I know real people, real people, real people come here, dog. And they say them, like, the children back out to school quite recently, like, where the US are children, right? And you just hear them, I tell my daughter, or I tell my son, make sure I'm putting, I just send them 2 masks on, I said, and listen, if you don't have no pen and no pencil or whatever, don't borrow none from nobody, do it out, and they tell them, don't congregate and whatever. So it's our parents who would feel that way and tell their children to do those things. And that's totally up to them. Come just draw an example. Right here on my street, I see some people have, like, on the outskirts, right? At the garage, you have, like, a kind of burglar-proofing metal thing, right?
And
then they have...
sheets.
No, not that. And then by the gallery, they have the same burglar-proofing thing again. When I saw that, like, we are real thief. Like,
you super duper safe.
You understand? Like, so, hey, if that's the way you want to live,
right? Then
put on your 2 masks, do whatever you have to do, but the people who willing to, let me do him say the people who want to risk it. The people who have been vaccinated, COVIDed, you get COVID 2-3 times, or whatever, different variants, and look what, give me ice up now, boy.
Let people who are, because I know why you pause and say not want to risk it, because this suggestion that people who at this stage over COVID, like you're reckless or you're crazy. No, it could very well be that I've done what you told me to do to get vaccinated and maybe get boosted, or I got vaccinated and I got the virus, or I didn't get vaccinated but I got the virus and I was all right. I didn't dare and spend 2 days in the hospital. I was good. So, I'm as protected as I can be because I've been infected, you know what I mean? To just move on with my life. Just move, and stop letting me be ruled by the most fearful amongst us, the most neurotic individuals amongst us. If they want to live that way, then that's fine. Go right ahead and do that. But let the rest of us, like they've been calling for the Chamber of Commerce in Tobago, said, let's do away with that. Let we done this.
But we kind of realize Tobago had their own kind of vibe. So, but because it's central government make that law, so it had no way teaching they could.
No, they can't. Once it's a public health ordinance, they can't override that. They certainly don't have the autonomy to do that.
And that shit up,
Why?
Because
Tobago is just another. Is a island.
No, but like how it is. I mean, obviously,
it's just a part.
No. But I'm saying our government structure is different to like the states. Like how that's the thing in the states.
Federal state. Yeah, but that's not state.
No, I say so. But that's it because our government structure is different, right?
No, but I mean, you're saying that's unfortunate, but that's like if you're saying San Fernando.
I think that's how it should be. Because then
I think we do. We're not big enough for that.
I understand, but oh God, boy, I would love to live in a place where you could.
But it has to be bigger than here.
I know, but that's it. But because Tobago is separated, they could do it like that. You understand?
Well, I mean, obviously Tobago, the movement for self-governance in Tobago would say that that's what they want. But I need a here nor there with that. I don't know if that would be beneficial for the people of Tobago, but that is their battle to fight.
Well, I mean, exactly. But I just really want to live in a place where, you see what all they're doing here? I really do argue it.
Yeah.
So, hey, well, let's pack up them thing on them there.
Yeah.
We going so.
I wish that is to me the most attractive thing about the United States. The United States is filled with its problems. It has a lot of bullshit that's going there. But one of the major reasons why I will always feel as if it's somewhere that I would, if I had a chance, migrate to in a heartbeat is because of the sheer size of it. In the United States, you could get a different climate without leaving the same country. Think about that. You could stay in the same country and experience a completely different climate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You could be in the country and experience a whole different time. A whole different time.
I mean, but there's several countries like that.
Yeah.
You know, Canada is big enough to that. Russia, all these big nations are like that. But I don't think there's any other country where you could
You get total tropical weather.
Yeah, a completely different climate, a completely different way of living in terms of from a climate perspective, and stay within the same border, the borders of the same country. I think that is crazy. That is crazy. The fact that you could be like, I don't like cold weather. Going to Florida, California, some parts of Texas, you know what I mean? And just come and be in the same country, not change your passport, not do anything, right? So you could do that, and then you could get a whole completely different culture, a different laws, different ways of thinking, of behaving, everything. If you are super duper progressive, you could go in one of the coastal cities and states, and you could live in Seattle or California or New York or Boston or wherever. And if you're not like that, you could go and live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or you could live in Wyoming or wherever. You could go to Florida. Like you could have been in these states while all of this bacchanal was going on and say, you know what? This jackass in this city, he trying to mind my business too much. He trying to tell me what to do every day of my life. F that. Florida we going.
I'm pressing, yeah.
Texas we going. Georgia we going. You know what I'm saying? And not have any issues because you're staying within the borders of your own country. And I don't understand why more people in America don't appreciate that. Like, but you know what it is? I've come to realize this recently. People love to control other people. People pretend that what they love, live and let live, but they don't really love that. They love to control other people. They want you to live the same way they want to live.
Yeah, I was telling somebody that today. I think now more than ever, especially with social media, a lot of people want you to think the way they think. They want you to say the same things they say.
Yes,
that's what they want.
Yes, and they feel they're not satisfied until you do it, and that's why they claim to be against bullying, but then they love to gang up and bully people into submission. Nobody ever just says, you know what, you go and live there. Isn't that wonderful? You could go and live there, and I could live here. And we don't argue with each other. I could sit down here. I could call you whatever names in my mind or wherever. I could think you're stupid. But I could live here and live how I want. And you could go over there and live how you want. But no, they want to they over there want to control them over there. You know what I'm saying? And it's because what they really are is authoritarian. Everybody, they love to control other people. They don't ever say, well, these are my ideas of how people should live. How about I just go in a whole corner and find the other people
Stick in my tribe.
Right?
Or find my tribe.
You know what I mean? And we could cooperate in terms of, all right, we could all give taxes to the same government and kind of share whatever. But I don't want to argue with you. I think socialism is the way. So I will go to somewhere where everybody, well, not everybody, but the majority of people think that that's the way. And I'm not going to argue with you. You know what I mean? You don't like that? No problem. And when I do it by me and it starts to look real wonderful, then guess what you go do? Then all they go start to come and beg to come by me. No worry. Then we'll have a discussion then. But no, they don't want to do that. People on one side tell you, no, go ahead, do what you want. But no, they're not satisfied with that. No, you must. And I must change your life too. And I think that is, at the end of the day, why people don't appreciate places, the diversity that the states.
I think they do. Plenty of Americans do have that scope and that vision, boy. So I think we as Trinidadians or Caribbean people, but immigrants, I think that's why plenty of immigrants go across there and do much better than the average.
And thrive,
the average American, because they go there way more.
Yeah, they know how it could be on the other side.
Yeah.
You
understand? And they beating up over them little things now. You understand? Anyhow, this is where we look to wrap it up for today. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for listening. It's the Alternative Perspectives Podcast, the app 868. We out. Remember the giveaway coming up, 500 YouTube subscribers, and the giveaway is on. You seen that? Brand new in pack still. See that? Plastic panny pack. Anyhow, we out.
Yep.